and welcome to Kilimanjaro, the highest peak in Africa and the third highest in the world outside of Asia. Kilimanjaro is also the highest freestanding mountain above sea level in the world because it stands at 5,895 meters above sea level, which is in feet 19,341 feet above sea level. So, all of this is going to give you the dimensions of this ginormous mountain, which is an unforgettable experience to climb. In today's episode, I'm going to tell you about this hike and all of the possible routes that you can take, as well as some of the other tips that you have to consider for visiting. And I'll start by telling you a little bit more about this mountain. Something interesting is that its name comes from the Quichua word, which is Kilima, and this is going to mean mountain, and Njaro, which means white. And this name would translate technically to White Mountain, which is very obvious because it's one of the few places that has snow in all of Africa. Kilimanjaro is an extinct volcano that formed about 2 million years ago, and it actually consists of three volcanic cones. It has Kibo, Mawensi, and Shira. It is said that these three cones were formed as part of volcanic eruptions millions of years ago. Kibo is the highest cone and it is the highest point in Africa with an altitude of 5,895 meters or 19,341 feet. Many years ago, Kibo erupted and formed Mawensi, which is the second highest cone, and this one is going to stand at 5,149 meters, which means 16,893 feet. And then finally, Mawensi erupted and formed Shira, the third cone, with a height of 4,300 meters or 14,100 feet. There are going to be several routes that you can take for reaching the summit, but there are going to be three popular ones, which are Marangu, Lemosho, and Machame, and then four less popular ones, which are Shira, Umbwe, Mueca, and Rongai. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the three popular ones, which my guide, Leo, explained to me, so you can better understand which one is going to be the best one for you. The first one of all is Marangu, and this one is popularly known as the Coca-Cola route because it's going to be the easiest and therefore one of the most popular ones. It's only going to take 5 to 6 days, and this is the oldest route. It's also the only route that will offer cabins to sleep in, not camps. And you'll find that there are like 60 beds in this Mandara and Kibu shelters, and 120 in the Harombo shelter. And over there, you're going to find mattresses, pillows, but you need to bring your own sleeping bag stills. All of the shelters are going to have common dining rooms and basic bathrooms, and so many tourists are going to prefer Marangu because it's considered like an easy and comfortable ride as the mountain, and it's also going to have a kind of gradual slope and direct route. This route is going to approach Mount Kilimanjaro from the southeast, but unfortunately Marangu is going to be less scenic than other routes as the ascent and descent are going to be made along the same path. The greatest challenge of Marangu is that everything will happen very fast, in just 5 days, and this is going to mean that you'll have very little time to acclimatize. And this explains why, although this is the easiest and let's say the most comfortable route, is going to be the one that has lower success rates compared to others. So if you choose this option, have in mind that you should be in good physical and mental condition, and technically this is going to be the best option if you're looking to avoid camping. So if this is a criteria that you're looking for, then Marangu is going to be your choice. The second popular route is going to be Lemosho, which is considered one of the most scenic trails on Kilimanjaro. It offers panoramic views of different sides of the mountain, and this one is one of the most recent routes. Also, one of the longest ones though. It's going to take approximately 8 to 9 days, but this is going to help a lot with acclimatization, unlike the Marangu one. Because in acclimatization, you're going to have more days to get used to this altitude, so this is going to be a good route if your health is not going to be ideal, let's say, or your physical well-being, and you're going to go in a slower pace, so this will be better for you. This route is going to approach Kilimanjaro from the west, starting with a long drive from Moshi to Landorosi Gate. And then from there, the first 2 days are going to be spent walking through the rainforest to Shira Ridge. And then the Lemosho route is going to cross the entire Shira Plateau from west to east on a pleasant and relatively flat hike. Here, it's going to also join for a short while Machame route, which I'll talk later, and then It's going to cross below Kilimanjaro's southern ice field on a path known as the Southern Circuit before just summiting from Barafu. The descent is going to be via the Maweka route, and basically what makes Lemosho special is that it's going to have a very gradual pace. You'll have more days of walking, more time for acclimatization, and therefore a much higher success rate. In addition, it's also going to offer varied landscapes from jungle to moorland. Finally, you're going to find the third most popular route, and this one I did it 2 times. It's called Machame. This is going to be considered the most difficult route, and that's why it is known as the whiskey route. But don't be scared because this route is not going to be as hard. It's going to be 7 or 6 days depending on your physical condition, and it probably has the best scenery of all, which is the reason why I chose it 2 different times. This route is basically going to be like a mixture of the previous 2 because it's going to be short, like Marangu, but it will be scenic, like Lemosho. And because it has the best of both, you have to pay the price of just greater difficulty. But it's totally worth it. It starts in the rainforest, but it's going to quickly ascend into the moorland area with spectacular views of the massif. Then, the third day is going to be key because you'll be climbing up to Lava Tower, which is 4,600 meters, to acclimatize, and then you're going to descend to sleep in the Barranco Valley. So, Machame is going to be the only one of all of the routes that's going to take this approach, which is climb high, sleep low. And this strategy is going to improve the body's adaptation to altitude, also improving your success rate. When you continue to Barafu Camp, which is the last camp before summit, you're going to start climbing from there to Uhuru Peak, and it's going to start kind of around midnight. And this is going to be a demanding hike that will end with the sunrise from the highest point in Africa. So in summary, it's going to be physically demanding route, but it has a lot of beautiful landscapes and also a good chance of success. So let's see, I'm going to do a recap of all of the 3 popular routes. You'll find Marangu route, also known as the Coca-Cola route, which is short, easy, and it has beds and huts. There's also going to be the Lemosho route. This one's going to be long, easy, and it has a lot of scenery. And then you'll find the Machame route, which is going to be the whiskey route, is short, difficult, but incredible views. Whichever you choose, I know it will be incredible, and you should always choose based on your health, as this is going to be your main priority whenever you're hiking. Now, I'm going to talk about the next important thing, and it's probably what you're thinking, physical condition. How athletic do you have to be in order to hike Kilimanjaro? Well, the truth is, I am not super athletic. I go to the gym to do cardio mostly 3 times per week, and I was able to do the Machame route without any problems. So, always choose the route that makes you feel comfortable because something that you should know about any hike to a snow-capped peak or high mountain is that the climb and the challenge are not going to be physical but also mental. And this is something very important to understand because climbing a mountain is going to require a lot of persistence, a lot of not giving up. Even if you're tired, keep walking. Even if you're hungry, keep walking. Even if it's cold, keep walking. And I think this is the key. It's not the physical fitness as much. And I was with many people who were even more athletic than me, who later regretted it or took another day to the summit because even though they had the physical training, you reach the summit with your mind, not your legs. So always keep that in mind. I did the Machame route in 6 days, even though I had planned it for my initial trip in 7 days. But by making it shorter, I was able to return to Arusha earlier and then enjoy an extra night in the hotel than my agency covered. And now, this leads me to talking about the third important thing, and it's going to be how do you choose which agency to do Kilimanjaro with? There are going to be many agencies online that are going to be offering trips to Kilimanjaro, and finding the right one is going to take some time. So I did a lot of research and I found mine originally on TripAdvisor, and I chose it for 3 reasons. First, it had very good reviews and it was also one of the best ranked. Second, it had more competitive prices than the others. And third, it offered more and better quality than other companies. And the thing is, you have to choose very carefully which agency you're going to do your hikes with, especially in these types of trips, because you need experts, you need quality, and you need reliability. And that's what my agency offered to me. I can't recommend this agency enough because my trip to Kilimanjaro, the 2 times I've done it with them, and both times it has been perfect. Henry, which is the owner of the company, is super nice and sweet, and he's always taking care of you and of your trip to ensure that everything is going perfectly. The first time I used it, I traveled to Kilimanjaro alone by myself, and this tour was incredible because they gave me a private guide, but I was sharing the porters, the cooks, and all of this other people that are carrying, let's say, your tent, your pots, and so on. So even though we were carrying things in a group, my guide made me feel like I was in a private tour. And then the second time that I went, which was this year, I went with my fiance. And this time we had a 100% private tour. And I'll tell you more about my experience in these trips in my next episode. But what's impressive is that for the prices that you can get it, we literally had a complete team dedicated to us. Something that would normally cost way much more. But what I recommend is that taking a private tour on a hike like this is going to be probably one of the best decisions that you can make. And also, it may be one of your success factors because when you're with a private guide or a private tour, you're going to go at your own pace, which means that you will be able to reach the summit because you'll be walking however you feel comfortable. On Kilimanjaro, you'll hear everyone guides, porters, hikers saying all the time, pole pole. Pole pole means go slowly, slowly. And that is going to be the mantra that you have to use there for climbing. So if you go there pole pole at your own pace, you're going to be able to reach the summit regardless of your physical condition. If you go pole pole, your hike will be very fun and delightful walk. But if you start rushing, keeping up with other people, this might ruin your entire experience or even prevent you from reaching the summit. So that's why I 100% recommend this agency. They're very honest. They're also going to be local, which makes them cheaper. And I've found this service to be 10 out of 10 every single time I've used it. And well, I was telling you that I chose this agency because of the cost also. So let's take a little bit more of a closer look into that because supposedly, according to a Google search and ChatGPT, Kilimanjaro can cost between 2,000 and 6,000 per person, which is completely insane and false. This is going to be like a tourist trap because this price is extremely exaggerated compared to what you can actually get it for. The thing is that many of the popular agencies, I won't name which ones, but you'll find them posting ads or being the first ones that you can find when you do a Google search, they are not going to be local. They're either Russian owned, American owned, European owned, so obviously they're going to be charging a very high margin because they're making a profit out of this. And when I travel, I always try to use local agencies. First, because I think that's fair. You are using the services of the country you're going to be traveling to. And second, because they're usually going to give you a way better service because they won't have any intermediaries. So they're also going to be earning more and your money is going to go straight into their pockets, which is what I think is fair. The two times I've done it, I received luxury service, the kind that would supposedly cost 4,000 or 6,000 at normal prices. And that's what I've used them at several times because they don't charge anywhere near to that. Their prices for 2025, where if you're hiking, let's say two people, for Marangu, it would cost you 2,500 per person. Machame route, it would cost you around $1,970 per person, and Lemosho would cost you around 2,600 per person, which, as you can see, is literally on the lower range of the costs. Even Machame is going to be less than 2,000, but you'll get extraordinary service. This is what I got when I got even like my private tour. So these are going to be the actual prices of this agency, and besides, they're going to include everything because many of the other agencies you're going to find that maybe they look kind of cheap, but they charge extra things for all of the other services that you'll get. So they will charge extra money whenever you get a porter. They will charge extra money for staying on the hotel where you arrive. They will charge extra for a lot of things, so you'll end up paying more. I think this agency is going to be very honest, and that's why I've done it with them. And if you want to get a quote with them, you can tell them that you arrived through this podcast, through Maria's podcast, and Henry said that he will also gift to you the airport transfer, both on arrival and in departure, which isn't inexpensive, but it's going to be something. It's a gift, and I'm not getting anything in exchange. It's just that both of the times that I've been with them, I've enjoyed the service so much. And by talking with the guys, they've always thanked me for choosing local instead of the other big companies that are handled by international operators. So it's kind of my way of helping them in the tough job that they have competing with other big firms. My next piece of advice is going to be around timing. So when is the best time to visit Kilimanjaro? And this is going to be an extremely important question because bad weather can literally ruin your experience. There are going to be two good seasons for traveling. The first one is going to be from December to February, and the other one is going to be from June to September, with July and August being the best months to travel, taking into account rainfall and cloud cover. And these are going to be two popular seasons, so of course you will find a lot of people during these months, but honestly, I don't think that many people will ruin the trip, but bad weather will definitely ruin the trip. The first time I did it, I traveled at the end of July, and this was the absolute perfect time to climb Kilimanjaro. It never rained, every day was sunny, I got perfect weather. The second time I did it was in early June, and it only rained one day, but this day was horrible because rain is very demotivating, especially in cold weather. When you're tired, your shoes get wet. So, if I would give the best possible advice for when to travel, I would say July and August only because these are going to be the driest months and therefore the best. But again, be careful because it might rain. You will never be safe from rain, especially in the mountain. But statistically, this will be the best months. My last recommendation is going to be about the things that you should pack for Kilimanjaro. And this part is going to be very important, but it will also depend on the agency that you're hiring. So I really only had to pack like personal items. What I brought was first a sleeping bag for cold weather. My first time I brought it from home. The second time I rented it, and renting it was actually pretty convenient because it wasn't gross, which was my first fear. It was very clean and it felt almost like new. It was convenient because I didn't have to bring it from home, which would take up probably half of my bag. I also brought flashlight, survival blanket, which is kind of like a sheet that will help you keep warm at night, and of course, water bottles. So you're going to need proper water bottles and ideally one where you can put hot water and it's going to maintain it hot. So that would be my recommendation at the entrance or in the nearby stores. You can always buy 1.5-liter bottles, let's say, and these ones are going to be recommended because you always have to have at least 2 liters of water. And on the day that you are going to the summit, you should take 3 liters because staying hydrated is what's going to get you to the top because staying hydrated will make you avoid altitude sickness. As for clothes, you should bring a lot of layers. And if you think you're ready for the cold, pack 2 more extra layers than you think you'll need because in the day that you reach the summit, the biggest obstacle to getting there is going to be the cold and the feeling that you're going to freeze. When I climbed, I wore 3 layers of pants, which consisted of a thermal layer, then my usual hiking pants on top of those, and then my last layer was like skiing pants, which are the ones that are thermal on the inside and waterproof and windproof on the outside. And then on the top, I was wearing 5 layers. I was wearing a thermal shirt, then on top of that, a hiking shirt, then on top of that, a Patagonia sweater, kind of like this one. Then the next layer was an insulation layer, ideally a thin sweater. And the last layer, the outer one, was a big jacket that ideally should be wind and waterproof. I also had 2 layers of gloves. I had 2 pairs of socks. I had a hat and I had a buff. So literally, I was wearing so much clothes that this is everything that I brought. So summit day, I used basically my entire backpack except for 2 extra shirts. But on the other days, you're going to see that because weather's changing so fast, you sometimes may be hot, you sometimes may be cold, you will need some days more layers, some days you'll need less. But my recommendation for packing is kind of pack your bag as if it's summit day and then probably just an extra t-shirt or extra socks, let's say, because the rest, you're going to use everything on the summit day. And this is not to scare you, but to prepare you because the better prepared you are for the cold, it's going to be the easier way to climb. If you bring thermal clothing to wear as your first layer and then your outer layers are ski clothing, then you're going to be very good. And then on top of that, just stay hydrated and go pole pole. You'll reach the summit without even realizing it. I'm going to end this chapter on Kilimanjaro here, but next week I'm going to be talking about my experience climbing Kilimanjaro twice. I'm going to tell you how each day was like, the level of difficulty, and everything about my climb to the summit. I hope that after listening to this episode, you'll know everything that you need to know before hiking the highest peak in Africa. Let me know in the comments what surprised you the most and share my podcast with someone else who loves to travel. Also, give me a review if you can because this will help me tremendously. And I'll see you next week to tell you everything about hiking into the summit. Enjoy your trip.